I'm going to take you through two related but slightly different practices. They're very related. One's a developmental step for the second one, and it's building on what we've already done. So it's building on the practice we've already done in the previous sessions. So like I said, there's a systematic progression through these practices, and it's worth developing each one for a good enough period of time to really feel how they work together. So these two practices are the 7 steps and the 7 waves. The 7 steps breath and the 7 waves breath. Now, one thing about being a human being is we have a vertical spine. We're no longer quadrupeds. We don't hang around on all fours. So we're vertical spine. So we have an axis of intelligence. The axis of intelligence is the brain, the spinal cord, and all the spinal nerves coming out feeding all the muscles and organs of bones, which are then passing information back up to the body in this cybernetic web of information flow that we are. Information is king in the body. And information flow needs to be good and clear. Of the information flow in the body, 80% of that information flow is going from the body up to the brain. So we can simply change the way the brain sees, the way the brain feels, the way how we deal with and respond to things by changing the way we breathe. Simply taking a breath to stretch the lungs. Opens up the stretch reflexes in the lungs, and that switches on the ventral vagus nerve. Coming down here. Breathing down here will switch on the dorsal vagus nerve. So we can change, the way we experience life through changing the information flow from the body up to the brain. That is radical and powerful to have that ability to shift physiology in that kind of way. So it's connected to heart rate variability, it's connected to well-being in the body. But for simply now, let's have a look at the 7 steps and the 7 waves breath. So building on what you've already done, in terms of completing the out-breath with the muscular end of the breath, initiating the in-breath with the lifting and pulsing, soft pulsing, but certainly the lift of the front and middle of the pelvic floor, breathing in from there and feeling these side ribs open up and getting those 11 spaces open up between the ribs, keeping the back of the neck long, the chin slightly dropped, jaw relaxed, tongue in place behind the top teeth. So all these pieces are in place of your practice. So what we're going to do now is we're going to begin to feel into that central line of intelligence, the axis of intelligence, right? Now, very simply put, this part of the body experiences and feels the universe, feels life in a slightly different way to this part in a slightly different way to this part. I've mentioned the 3 centers that are used in Chinese yogic practice. So that's the lower dantian, the middle dantian, and the upper dantian. Now, in Indian or Vedic yogic practice, there were many systems of feeling into places in the body, and those places were given the name originally of shtanas, which just means a place, shtana, like Afghanishtana, the place where the Afghanis live, or Hindushtana, the place where the Hindu people live. So a shtana is a place. It's a place for focus, a place for tension, a place for meditation. It's a place for feeling deeply into a particular quality. So in those systems, there have been many, many different shtanas. Sometimes there have been 64, sometimes 11, 13, 18, 6, 7, and so on. So these shtanas are not set in stone, as it were. Now the name for the shtanas changed over time, and they became called chakras. And chakras, which has got a cha on the front of it, became a New Age religion called chakras. Okay, whether a particular, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, etc., etc. But mostly that is not traditional in terms of meditative, conscious breath work depth. There are different ways of relating to those shtanas. And those shtanas don't have particular elements associated with them, but that's a whole thing there I can go into on another time. That's the kind of work I do in the Maha Yoga, is working much more authentically with installing things into those shtanas. Elements, for example, and working with the elements, which is the experiences we have of solidity, fluidity, thermal qualities, gaseousness, spaciousness, and consciousness. And that's profound work, but it's not the focus of this course. I'm just mentioning that because we're going to feel into these 7 areas of the body, okay? So, rather than just 3, by the way, Tibetan practice, they often have 4 or 5 centers of the body they feel into. So we're going to go into these areas and feel it in steps. So each step is an opportunity to feel deep into the body. The first inhale is an opportunity to feel into the base area of the spine. You take a micro breath in and then pause for a moment. And take the second level of breath, which comes into the second area of the spine. And feel that area and pause. And then the third area. Feel that area and pause. Then up here, 4. And pause. And 5. And pause. And 6. And pause as if you're breathing into the head. 7. And pause. Hold the breath briefly. 1 long, slow, fluid out breath. You don't have to move your hands like this. I'm doing that to describe the feeling. Okay? So again, that's an inhale. Pause. Second part of the inhale. So breathing in phases or wait, yeah? Steps of breath. And the 7th breathes all the way up to the crown of the head and then down. So again, we're looking for this integrated coherence of relationship between the whole of the intelligence systems of the body, from the pelvic floor, the feet ideally, from the feet and the pelvic floor, all the way through to the crown of the head. Yeah? So we're joining everything up with the breath. That's the first stage of this practice, the 7 steps. Try that for a few breaths now at least. Now we're going to go to the 7 waves, which is basically the same practice, but it's a slight development in terms of instead of having a moment of pause, we're going to get a much more fluid arrangement with the breath. But you need to have felt that clarity, yeah, between the different steps first. All right, so it's really good to feel that clarity first and then go to the waves. Don't hurry it, don't push it, don't rush it. There's plenty of time. Yeah. So let's breathe in here and get the waves going. So breath in. And there's a momentary pause before you front side back, front side back, front side back, front side back, all the way through. And then long, slow out breath. So like the anatomical meditation we did, where we were really feeling into the whole of the body, all the way through, and all the respiratory muscles were doing exactly the same, and being able to switch them on, hold, release, switch them on, hold, yeah, that kind of thing. So dancing with those respiratory muscles and awareness and the whole of the breath, and making sure that long out breath is super long. And you'll find the out breath will probably be about twice the length of the inhale. And that's a really good thing. In terms of down-regulating the system, that is brilliant. Because you're getting that full respiratory activity, heartbeat is switching on, yeah? You're paying attention, you're mindful, you're aware in that, yeah? So you're not going to go into sympathetic or stress-based state, but then that long, slow out breath is going to down-regulate your system. Yeah, it's going to take you into deep relaxation response on the out breath all the way out until you finish. Squeeze those muscles in at the end of the breath. Take a moment to pause, hold the out breath out, and then inhale again from there. Now, if you notice that some part of the breath feels hurried, rushed, slightly panicky, that means, say for example, if the out breath is feeling a little bit panicky, that means you did the in-breath for slightly too long. So reduce the inhale slightly, yeah, and that'll make the out-breath softer and easier. Please remember that we're not trying to be goal-oriented on this. We're not chasing an outcome. What we're looking for, not an outcome in terms of the length or the size or the number of breaths you're doing. The outcome we're looking for is how you can feel into your physiology and change your physiology. How you can keep that breath effortless, how you can do an expansive, huge breath and stay super relaxed at the same time. Yeah, that kind of thing. So we're looking for this very intelligent outcome around deep feeling and awareness in the system. Yeah, deep feeling, awareness, and relaxation in the system all together. Excellent. So that's the 7 steps and the 7 waves. And enjoy that practice. Enjoy that practice.